Cruising on 7 is brought to you by Capital Auto Mall, Regina's premier full-service automobile center. Home of Capital Pontiac, Universal Collision Center, and Capital Ford.
Hi, I'm Darren Beasley. I'm here with the Saskatchewan Ford Mercury Club. We've got a car show at Rona, and thanks to them. And I got Al here with a 19, help me Al?
57 Porsche.
57 Porsche, and it's a Speedster 1600. And then Lucky Al just got it a few weeks ago. Tell us a little bit about it.
It actually came, it's an American Classic Speedster kit. It's a kit car, so it came up from the States. The guy, actually how it got up here is the guy brought it up from the States and moved up to Vernon, BC. And that's how it got into Canada. Yeah. So it came up here and the guy bought it from Vernon, BC, drove it all the way out from Vernon. Wasn't really a car guy. Oh, really? And it sat in his garage and was in the paper here.
Well, I know I seen it myself a few weeks ago. I'm a Ford guy, but man, if I was ever going to buy something that wasn't a Mustang, this is cute. This is sort of the James Dean car, I guess, hey?
It's a James Dean car. The James Dean was a Spider, the 356 Spider, but it's very, very close. And most people don't realize it's not a real one.
Sure, so it's built off a Volkswagen Bug chassis, right?
1600cc engine, and it's got the 68 pan in it, so with an auto stick, so it's pretty unique that way.
Yeah.
You can change the top, so you can put a convertible top on it, or run the tonneau like that single, or cover it totally over, and so it gives it a different configuration. It's got the Porsche wheels on it, so it's pretty hard to tell the difference between this and the real thing. So it's lots of fun to drive, and I can drive it.
Just a whole lot less zeros, I guess, on this one compared to the real one, eh?
The real one would be worth, there's two on eBay right now. One's $160,000, and the other one was a $200,000 bid. So.
Oh yeah.
Driving that, I don't think, or I wouldn't anyway. Yeah. So, but it's lots of fun. You get lots of looks, and lots of people like it. It's something different, and that's what I was looking for, is something unique. So.
In my mind, German cars always look best in silver. There's just something about that German precision engineering. When you see them in silver or black, that it's like the Italian cars in red. They just look so good. Yeah. So, well, great. Thank you for bringing it out. Thank you very much. Oh. Hi, I'm here with George. He's got a 1941 kind of a custom hot rod. Tell us a little bit about it, George.
Actually, this car was I bought from somebody down in Reno. I brought it up here in the spring. It actually was built by one of the great customizers, Dick Dean, out of Southern California back in 1974. It's one of his styles and stuff. He's real known for the 50 Mercs and stuff, but he does some of these other ones. And it's actually set over a 74 Cutlass chassis type thing. It's been chopped, channeled. Excuse me, not channeled. Yeah. The roof has a Carson top that lifts off. All the fenders and everything have been welded up and molded in. It's actually, the back section of it is actually a 46, and it's got a 41 front on it. It's got a 48 Olds grill in it. It's automatic. It's got all the creature comforts and stuff. It's got basically a newer drivetrain in it. It's got a 307 Olds and stuff in it.
Was it difficult to get into the country at all and get it plated and all that kind of stuff?
No, actually, it's fairly simple. Like saying, it's just not, everybody's really scared going both ways and stuff. And actually, all it is here, the main thing to remember, if you're ever going down to buy a car, is that you need to give the border crossing that you're going to go across 72 hours. And if you have your title and your bill of sales and stuff, everything's good. You got it, but you have to send that title down to them, fax it to them 72 hours. Otherwise, they're going to leave you. You got to leave the car.
They're going to make you wait, I guess, hey?
But if you have that all done, it's a matter of about a half hour at the border.
So did it have to get inspected here or anything like that? Yeah.
Yes. It had to, because of its age. It doesn't need a federal inspection. But it does need a provincial inspection type thing, safety inspection, which basically is, you want that anyway.
And it's for sale, and it's been safetied, everybody. So anybody looking out there, you can buy with some confidence.
Oh yeah. Like saying, it's totally. I just came back last weekend. I was down at Salina, Kansas, which is about 1,300 miles one way. I drove it down there and back for the weekend for a big custom show.
Oh, neat. Good for you. What kind of mileage?
I was getting about, on the U.S. gallon, I was getting about 21, 22.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And that particular show, you had George Barris was there, Winfield was there, Gene Hines was there type thing. So it's all the old style guys, and they all love seeing the car again.
Oh yeah, especially one that's been a classic for that long.
Yeah, a lot of them remember actually seeing the car and stuff like that. And so the guy that actually built it 2 weeks ago, he passed away. Type thing. So we lost a good, another one of the good legends and stuff this year, type thing. So which isn't good. There's not a lot of guys around anymore that does work like this and stuff.
Can we get you maybe to lift the hood and we'll show some underneath there?
The color and stuff was a custom blend done by the guy that I bought the car from. He bought it about 9 years ago, and actually he calls the car Poison Ivy. Because of the color.
So it's safe to touch, though, right?
Oh yeah. It's not too contagious. Just it's contagious to want it. But before it, originally it was done a persimmon red, and it was called Flamin' Flamingo.
Okay, that's a great name.
And, Dick Dean first did it up. But it's got the 307, power brakes, everything on it, type thing.
All the modern amenities and kind of that classic hot rod look. Yeah. That is great. That's a neat car.
Yeah, it's a very, like I say again. All my cars I always had and stuff. It's always been, they always been ones to drive. Like 56, I sold that last year, and I had 92,000 miles on that in 8 years. So,
92,000 miles in 8 years.
Yeah. The last year I actually had it going to shows and stuff in the States. I put almost 20,000 miles on it.
Oh my! I thought I was a go hard guy. I'm actually going to pale in comparison to you. Thank you very much for bringing it out.
All right.
Hi, Darren again here with one of my oldest best friends when we were like young children. Now that we're a little bit older, I guess the gray's coming on. Fred Wagner. Fred's got a '65 Hypo Mustang convertible, quite rare and quite unique. And I guess Fred, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I've owned it 11 years. I bought it out of Texas. It was a rust-free car. A fellow was 80 years old that I bought it from. He'd owned it for 30 years, so it had a pretty good life, pretty easy life. It's got a lot of rare options. It's a very early built 65 cars, so if you're familiar with the 64 and a half stuff, it's got a lot of little features like that. About 8 years ago, I completely took the car apart and redid it, and it pretty well did all the work myself except for the bodywork and paint. And the most recent upgrade I did was the dual red wall tires on it, which would have been a factory original piece of the car when it was new because of the 289 Hypo engine that it has.
Fred, tell us a little bit about the Hypo engine. It's a little different than a normal 289, and it's quite a rare sort of unit.
Yes, it's a solid lifter engine. The normal 289 4-barrel would have been 225 horsepower. The 270, the Hypo would have been a 271 horsepower with a solid lifter cam. The Shelby would have been 306, so it's not that far off of what a Shelby would be. The Shelby would have had a high-rise intake, larger carb and tri-Y headers, but basically the same motor package that this has. And it comes with a 9-inch rear end in it.
And Ford would have made about 450,000 65 Mustangs. Any idea on how many Hypos they would have built?
I don't have any exact figures, but I think it's in the neighborhood of a few hundreds. There is a registry on Hypo convertible or Hypo cars, which would narrow some of that down. They've been getting more and more information all the time on what numbers there was. Convertibles, of course, there was very limited numbers.
So when people say they have a high performance 289, doesn't mean it's actually truly a Hypo 289. It's quite a rare car and kind of a unique car. Thank you very much for bringing it out. Hi, we're actually standing beside, strangely enough, kind of a unique color for 1970. It's called Grabber Blue. And we like the color so much that I've got one and Jim's got one. And this is mine. It's a 1970 Fastback Mustang. It's a little bit unique. It's got a 408 stroker engine in it, sort of an upgraded interior, an upgraded wheel package. And I've always been sort of a fan of this color and was luckily able to find it about a year ago. Now this one doesn't have as good of a story as Jim, and I'm going to get Jim to introduce you to him. He bought this car in 1980, and it's got quite of a good history for it. Go ahead, Jim.
Name is Jim Leskin. Bought my car in April of 1980, about 1 month before my 16th birthday. Took my driver's license in it. This car was probably seen around Central Collegiate parking lot. It is pretty much stock. Bodywork was redone in 2004. Yeah, she's personalized, baby blue. Been in the Mustang Owners Club in the early 80s. I left in Saskatchewan, went to Toronto to go to school in the late 80s, and got back driving it in 1990. It's been a family car, and yeah, 28 years of ownership. Everybody's been very pleased with it.
So tell me, in all those years, who's driven it besides you? Because I heard a good story recently.
I've been the only driver in the last 28 years, not the wife and neither of the children.
So this car is pretty important to you, is what you're saying.
Yes, I've told the daughter that when I go to make the grave 18 feet long, 10 feet wide, and 16 feet deep.
That's a good story. That's a great car. And certainly I love the color. Yours and mine are very similar. You've got the white and I've got the black, but the wheels are the same. And 1970 is one of my favorite years of all Mustangs. Thanks very much for bringing it out. Hi, I'm with Hillary. She's with the Saskatchewan Recycling Oil Program. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the oil program has been around for a while, and basically we have collectors that go around and collect used oil from shops and people who do oil changes. And the used oil can be recycled into new oil. It also can be made as a diesel fuel, and some of it's burnt for heat. And we also recycle the containers. They get shredded into flakes, and then we can make them into new containers and things like this. And then the filters get crushed, like this one here. And then we can, they're used as a scrap metal, so made into something else.
Now, is there any cost for anybody to leave used dirty oil, let's say at Walmart or anything like that?
Nope, that's what you pay the fee for when you buy your oil. So, yeah.
So when we buy the oil, we pay the recycling fee. Really, we're paying it in advance, kind of like a bottle recycling?
Yeah, exactly. It's just not a deposit, so you don't get any money back.
So it's a great program, and it saves the environment too?
Right, yep.
Cruising on 7 is brought to you by Capital Auto Mall, Regina's premier full-service automobile center. Home of Capital Pontiac, Universal Collision Center, and Capital Ford.
Hi, we're with Randy, who's got the neatest Volvo and probably the, the fastest?
Okay, sure.
Fastest one out there. It's got a little different engine in it. I'll get Randy to tell you a little bit about it.
Well, it's got the 5-liter Mustang engine. It's from 1991, along with the 5-speed as well. So it moves really well, and as you can see, the valve cover is on fire. So it just adds a little touch to the engine. But it goes pretty good. It's awesome what the car needed. Had a V6 before. The V8 validates the whole thing.
And it almost seems like size-wise and how the fit is, it looks like it was designed that way from the factory.
It actually fits better than the V6. You can work on this engine with the V6. You had to have a manual with you and a good technician to be able to work on it.
Now, was that a package that they made with like different motor mounts and those kinds of things to put a Ford V8 engine in this car?
There was a package that was designed out of the States, and the company in Saskatoon made, I guess, the kit. And they put the power train in for me. So.
Well, they did a nice job. Thank you for bringing it out. That's a great car. Thanks.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm here with John. It's a 1959 Meteor, and that's a little different than a Ford and a little different than a Mercury. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the Meteor is a Canadian car. It was made down in Ontario. This car actually belonged to the Mayor Lloyd Minister's son in 1958. We found a repair sticker on the top of the radio when we took the car apart. The car has been completely stripped down, right down to the frame, and every bolt, everything's been done completely to the car. It's got the original interior in it yet, from the factory, and it looks bad, but it's still the original interior.
So a Meteor was a Canadian-only car, and what would distinguish it between, let's say, the Ford of that era?
Well, the white on the back fender, on the rear fender, they have the white in there. They're always a different color. Like if it's blue, could be two-tone blue, and it would be a light blue in there.
And a Ford would have been a solid color in that area?
And they wouldn't have that chrome on the bottom of the car, under the fin.
So does that make it much harder to restore? Because a lot of those parts aren't available, I imagine, right?
Especially on a two-door hardtop, it's hard to find because the chrome is so much longer than on a four-door, because the door would be back further behind, and that piece of chrome there is extremely hard to find.
And from what I know about old cars, chrome costs money, am I right?
Yeah, well, this isn't chrome, though. This is stainless.
Oh, even more expensive then.
Yeah, but the thing is, with stainless, you can take stainless and polish it up, and you can repair it, where you can't with chrome. You can't polish it.
Fix the dents, I guess, and pound them out and polish it, that type of thing. Yeah. That is a beautiful car. Any idea on the production for 1959?
I'm not sure what it is. No, I've never really looked it up. No.
Because I know you see lots of 59 Fords, but you don't see a lot of 59 Meteors, correct?
I've seen two. There's a convertible in town.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same car exactly. Spotlight, Continental kit, the whole. It's red and white, and but it needs still a little bit of work done to it.
So not very many cars around. That's a great car.
This car was painted by Mike Campbell at MC Painting. He did a wonderful job on it.
There's a nice plug for you, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a plug mic, so yeah, he did a real good job. Easy guy to work with.
Now, you may want to show for the viewers at home the spotlight that's on the fender there. Those are kind of unique, both the mirror and a spotlight.
Yeah, that was in the trunk of the car. That the trunk or the spotlight and the Continental kit came in the trunk of the car to the dealer, and they were dealer installed, they called them.
Any idea on the candle power on that spotlight?
Not sure, no. I don't have a clue.
So
It's bright.
you'd kind of just drive it around and flash it at people, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think people used them for hunting back in '59.
And then there's a handle inside the car. I know now from what people tell me, those spotlights are very rare and very valuable.
Well, the rare part of it is finding underneath the dash, it has a little red light that indicates when the spotlight is on, and that is very rare to find.
I got you, more or less to tell you, I guess, that it's on versus driving away or walking away with it on.
Right, exactly. I end up with a dead battery.
Now, is it legal to put it on and drive?
No.
Not that you ever do anything illegal. I understand that.
There's never been a beer bottle thrown out of the window.
Thanks for bringing it out. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm with Doug Middleton, and of course, Ford guy. I love Doug's hat. And ironically, or interestingly, at the show, we've got a 59 Ford, just to show our viewers the difference between a 59 Meteor and a 59 Ford. Doug, I guess tell us a little bit about your car.
Well, I've had it for about 5 or 6 years now. I bought it off of a gentleman who bought it off another gentleman who originally started the restoration, and it was painted and the trim was put back on, but it had been raised up. They had American racing wheels in the back end and on the car, and so I just took it back to stock and finished off the restoration and put her back on the road and been enjoying it since.
So if I think I know the story already, I think the car changed hands 3 times and it never left the body shop. Is that right?
Well, it left the body shop. Where I found it was in a garage. The guy had owned it for 3 years. He bought it off the guy who did the original restoration, or started the original restoration, and he just lost the chap that I bought it off of lost interest in it, and so I heard about the car actually through a fellow by the name of Fred Sykes, and good old Fred Sykes. He's been my right hand man, that boy.
Well, I love the color.
Yeah, the color helps the car. There's no question.
Now on the Meteor, I guess that spearing on the back there was white, and on the Ford, as noted on John, was saying that the Meteor was white, and on the Ford it was body color. So that's kind of unique and a little bit different.
Yeah, that's the Canadians. They did a slight bit difference to just show the difference between the Ford and the Meteor.
And that spare tire in the back, that's called a
Continental kit. Yeah, I have 2 other cars and I have Continental kits on them all.
And that's kind of a neat thing because the tire flips forward, right, to access the trunk?
Actually not, it flips to the side.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I know on the T-Birds, I guess it flipped back, right?
There's 2 styles. There is a style that flips forward, and there's another style that's sold by Continental Enterprises that flip to the side, which is, I find that a little more convenient.
Now, does it change the driving of the car at all when you add that weight to the back?
Not a bit. No, not at all. You don't know it's there at all until you start to back up.
The little extra 18 inches makes a difference, eh?
Especially when you're trying to store it in the garage.
Well, thank you very much for bringing it out. Hi, I'm with Randy Schneider, who recently purchased this car with his dad. I guess this is kind of unique. Randy's an X-Axis employee. Tell us a little bit about your car.
Well, it's a 1983 Ford Mustang GXL, and it's 6-cylinder, factory air, ex-Yankee car, I guess.
Oh, it was an American car. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
any idea where it was sold new?
No, that I haven't found out yet, but I picked up this car in Belcaris.
And pretty much the condition that you got it in. That's a nice car. I love the color.
Yeah, this is exactly how I picked it up from.
I mean, red convertible, white interior, and a Mustang. Does life get any better than that?
Only when my wife is around.
Well, there you go. That's nice. No, that's a neat car. What's the future plans for it?
Well, we're going to repaint it, and we got a few little goodies we're going to do to it, which I'm not going to reveal.
Well, they're a secret, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a great car. Thanks for bringing it out. Hi, it's Darren again with Dolan, and we've got a 1988 Mustang to look at. Tell us a little bit about it, Dolan.
It's an 88 Mustang convertible. It has 85,000 original kilometers on it. We bought it from the previous owner who owned it 17 years before that, and kept it in really good condition.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love those wheels. The chrome looks great.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, was that the condition that you guys bought it in?
Everything is original that we bought it from, except for we put a couple more parts into it just that were older and seized, and that's about it.
Boy, the previous owner sure looked after the car. That's nice. I like the color combination.
Oh, thanks. He, like I said, it was in the family for 17 years. His older brother owned that, and then he gave it to his younger brother, and then we bought it off of him. So
who wanted the Mustang?
It was it was a present to my wife.
Well, isn't that nice of you? And this is your truck here because this is the present to you. So tell us a little bit about it.
It's a 2001 Dodge Ram show truck. It has a $15,000 stereo in it. It consists of 5.1 surround sound. The truck is totally sound detonated, so you can't hear it outside the truck when it's playing full blast. Has a mini bar, skull behind the cage, digital processor, and pushes about 8,000 watts.
8,000. And what kind of watts make the ears pop?
Well, the truck on an SPL, which is sound pressure level, measures sound, and it hits 150 decibels. And if you compare that to a Harrier Jet, it can hit 145 decibels if you held the microphone up to the motor.
Unbelievable. How long did it take you to do all this work?
It took 3 months for the install. I've had the truck for 3 years. It's been, putting parts here, parts there, but it took 3 months to install the stereo alone. Right from the interior is built. The sub box is 800 pounds, and yeah, it's definitely loud.
Now, would that have been custom made for this truck then, or did they start with the kit and then kind of cut a little bit off, I guess, to make it fit?
No, everything was built from the ground up, right from scratch, right from paper. Everything was custom built for the sound and the dimensions of the truck. And the sub box was on a slight degree angle, so the subs face right towards the windshield, which rebound off the windshield into the microphone.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So when you're starting with something like this, they really need to make it custom made for each vehicle.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then the truck itself, you've got 22-inch wheels, I guess, on here?
22-inch rims on 37-inch tall tires by 13.5 wide.
Unbelievable. And it rides pretty good?
Yes, actually, surprisingly, it sounds like an airplane coming down the highway.
That is neat. Any idea from a standpoint of performance, does that change it quite a bit?
I actually get better gas mileage with a bigger tire, and the only reason that is the centrifugal force going down the highway. It's a bigger tire, so as soon as you get going, that's what carries it down the road. So as stupid as that sounds, it actually works. I get 3 more miles to the gallon previous to the other tires.
Well, that's a great truck. Thanks for bringing it out.
Thank you very much.
Cruising on 7 is brought to you by Capital Auto Mall, Regina's premier full-service automobile center, home of Capital Pontiac, Universal Collision Center, and Capital Ford.
Each week we'll take your questions and pictures, address them in a little segment we call the Mail Truck. If you'd like to send us any questions, comments about the show, or pics of your ride, you can reach us at cruisingon7@accesscom.ca. Now let's check out the Cruisin' on 7 Ride of the Week.
A big thanks to Gord Smith for his picks here of the Ride of the Week, this beautiful Mustang Mach 1. The engine is original 351 CJ with mild modifications, including new cam, headwork including 3-angle valve job imported and shaved to bring up the compression ratio, as well as some roller rockers. If you'd like to have your vehicle as the Ride of the Week, make sure you email us at cruisingon7@accesscom.ca.
Here are some events coming up you may not want to miss.
Hi, I'm Dale Johnson. This time on Cruisin' on 7, we're going to walk by some historic buildings in downtown Regina that were once car dealerships. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for turning out for this historic walking tour of old automotive dealerships in downtown Regina. We got beautiful weather today. I'd like to start by asking, tell me where you bought your car. What dealership did you buy your car from? Anyone? The last one, yes. Bennett Dunlop, the one up on Broad Street. Who else? Wheaton? Okay, the one up on North Albert, yes? Regina Honda up on Broad? Mercedes dealer up on Broad. Now the interesting thing is, if I had asked this question 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, every one of you would have said you bought your car in downtown Regina between Albert and Broad and probably South Railway and Victoria. That's where all the car dealerships were back then. Over time, of course, they've moved out to the outlying areas, mainly on Broad Street, but South Albert, North Albert, and now up on Rochdale. But years ago, all of the car dealerships were right near where we are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go on a tour generally over to Broad Street, up Broad, back 11th, and do a circle down Albert Street and back here to Victoria Park. And we're going to go by some buildings that were once car dealerships that are still standing. They're used for other things now. We're also going to go by the locations where car dealerships were located, although sometimes now they're parking lots or just vacant buildings. So I hope you enjoy the tour, and we can take questions as we go along. I'm going to start by walking this way on Victoria, and we're going to stop at Rose and Victoria. You know, if there was one person that could tell us a lot about the early days of the car industry in Regina, it'd be this man, Mr. Jack Broderick. Now, talk about knowing a lot of stories. He started with a car dealership in Regina in 1912, the Saskatchewan Motor Company. He stayed with that dealership until 1966. 54 years with one dealership. I'd love to be able to talk to him about some of the stories of what the retail car industry was like in Regina in those early days. However, I did talk to his son in Calgary, who's now retired. He worked for his dad for a while. So let's start our tour. I'll head over to Rose and Victoria, and we'll stop there and learn more about Jack Broderick and the Saskatchewan Motor Company. All right, I mentioned earlier about Jack Broderick, and he was an accountant by training. He moved to Regina in 1910. A year later, he was actually working for a national drug company. A year later, he answered an ad in the Regina Leader to be an accountant at a car dealership, the Saskatchewan Motor Company. And he started there in 1911. By 1918, he was general manager. By 1922, he was president, and he stayed with the Saskatchewan Motor Company until 1966. Originally, the dealership was selling Fords, and this is when Fords had a huge market domination in Saskatchewan. In 1917, there were 30,000 vehicles registered in Saskatchewan, and 20,000 of them, 2/3 of them, were Fords. Most of those were Model Ts, of course, which were very popular. But in 1922, Ford decided to change their dealership setup, and they took the franchise away from Mr. Broderick. They set up their own dealership. Mr. Broderick called this a very dirty deal. He had to figure out what else to sell. Well, he got the franchises for Durant and Star vehicles, and also Studebakers and Rio vehicles, and sold them in the 1920s, and business was booming. 1927, for example, his dealership did $2.75 million worth of business. He lived on a big house on Albert Street. In 1927, him and his wife and their 10-year-old daughter went on a vacation in Hawaii. Talk about boom times. But this is when Saskatchewan was the third most populous province and one of the richest ones. So selling cars was a good way to make money. Now, of course, when the Depression came, business went way down. I mentioned the $2.75 million in business in 27. 1933, the dealership did $175,000 worth of business. So times were tough. Also, the cars he was selling, Durant, Star, Studebaker, they were all in deep financial trouble. So in 1933, Jack Broderick ended his relationship with those manufacturers, and he got the Chrysler franchise. This is because the existing Chrysler dealership had folded. So Chrysler wanted somebody to take over their product line. So they sold Chryslers. And right after World War II, business was so good, Jack Broderick built a new car dealership right on this corner that looked like this, right where this parking lot is. And from the mid-40s to 1966, this building was here.
Cruising on 7 is brought to you by Capital Auto Mall, Regina's premier full-service automobile center. Home of Capital Pontiac, Universal Collision Center, and Capital Ford.
Well, we thought we would sort of take Dolan up on his idea of this truck being really loud. So we're going to see how loud it is. And he just wanted to thank the guys in Visions here in Regina who did a lot of the install for him. He said they did a great job. So I guess let's go for it. Let's see what it does.
Oh!